welcome back everybody to another episode of Katawa Shoujo, and we are now going, I think it's the day prior to the festival, so I guess everybody's kind of winding down, just relaxing, figuring out what they want to do with their extra spare time on their weekend before the actual festival starts on Sunday. So we'll see what happens on this day of, I'm assuming no class, but let's see, because it started off in the classroom. So, is there class on Saturdays? Is that something that happens in Japan? Like, where they have classes Monday through Saturday and then they have Sunday off? I mean, I've never been there, so I'm not really sure myself, so. Oh, I guess there is. The students roll into class for the Saturday morning session, each and every one of them sporting the tired eyes of people who have worked through the night. With only a day left to prepare, I suppose it's not so surprising. Thankfully, we only have to suffer through classes until lunch break, and then our time is our own. Muto lurches into class in a tired stagger. I suppose students aren't the only people here that enjoy their late Friday nights. He's probably like, oh gosh, I have to deal with that stupid pink-haired girl again. He's drinking it up, trying to wash away his pains of teaching these horrible students. Without saying a word, he scrawls some page and question numbers on the board and slumps down at his desk. Just do the work on the board. It's completely atypical behavior for him, but it appears that no one in class is going to call him out on it, because he's the teacher. Come on. Nice sound effect. Wordlessly, the students shuffle their textbooks into position and get to work. Not wanting to break the trend, I do the same. Fatigue has made the class antisocial. Not a peep is heard among the ruffling papers. That can be partly attributed to the two empty seats beside me. For some reason, Mishun and Shizun aren't present, probably doing some council work for the festival. It's very quiet without Misha present. I wonder if she was born as rowdy as she is, or if she is just making up for Shizun's lack of voice. Nakai, can I speak to you for a moment? No, that is never a good sign. I'm so engrossed in thinking about Misha that I don't even notice Muto approaching my desk. Sure, what's this about? It's probably better if we speak outside the classroom. Something about this doesn't sound too good, but I stand up and follow him out to the hallway. Muto stands in the hallway, scratching his head as he works out what he is trying to say. Not knowing what is going on, I wait silently. So, tell me, how are things? Things? I expect Muto to be a little vague, but this is pushing the limits. Things. You've had a week to settle in now, so how are things? Fine, I guess. I see, and how is your condition? The pause before condition seemed a little unnecessary. Haven't had any problems so far. Thanks, Chief. A brief shimmer of relief passes across Muto's face. Good. That's good. The school nurse was a little concerned that you might have been pushing yourself a bit too hard. He asked me to keep an eye on you when he couldn't. That makes sense. I'd ask that you don't blow us off so freely. As much as we try and give you the level of education that you would get at a normal school, you have to realize that you have limits. Our goal is to make sure that you know where those limits are and how to maximize your potential within them. Do you follow me? I guess. I don't plan on doing anything stupid. Well, that's a start, I guess. So then on to my next question. How are you finding your studies? I understand you were laid up for a while. We're not too far ahead, are we? I don't really think so. I tried to keep up when I was in the hospital, so it hasn't been too hard. Muto taps his chin and raises an eyebrow as he absorbs this information. Is that so? I suppose there are still students out there who realize the importance of learning. I wouldn't go that far. I was only trying to keep myself occupied in my little life support prison. Well, yeah, you've got to keep up with these things, right? That's exactly it! One wrong move in this world and you're left behind, right? Right, wouldn't want that to happen. We're probably on two different wavelengths, me and the teacher here. No, you wouldn't. Every week there's a new scientific discovery. Most of them mean nothing to the layer person, but any one of them could be the key to the next big thing. I'll keep that in mind. It's obvious that Muto's serious talk is over, and he's gone back to a standard, slightly scatterbrained approach to life. I think in hindsight that I prefer him this way. He's slightly more predictable in his unpredictability. Well then, I think that's all I really had to say. Let's get back inside, shall we? My relief at that suggestion is insurmountable. Sure, you're the boss, right? Muto pauses for a moment. I don't think any of the students have ever said that to me before. For instance, I consider replying to this, but something deep within tells me to shut my mouth and get back into the classroom. A few of the students jump at the sound of the door, rapidly trying to pretend that they are working on the questions on the board. So don't even bother, their heads slumped on the desk as they nap. Thankfully, it would appear that Muto doesn't even notice them. He doesn't care. I think he stopped caring a long time ago. He returns to his desk and retrieves a scientific journal from one of the drawers. I guess I got to him there. The class returns to the near silence that Muto and I left it before our chat. Mixed feelings of tiredness and anticipation buzz around the room. Everyone here is either waiting for a chance to rest or a chance to get their last-minute preparations underway. The clock on the wall slowly ticks the remaining class time away until finally the bells cry out, ending the torment. Before you all leave, I expect the answers for those problems by Monday. Pfft, yeah, right. When do people do weekend homework? People will do the weekend homework right before class and just cram it all on the paper and turn it in, we're good. The class sighs at one, instantly regretting slacking off, but still acutely aware of the more pressing issues at hand. Like festivals, yay! Fast food and fried food and fun games and stuff. The classroom empties in a blink as everyone rushes to their last-minute festival preparations. I stay behind and try to quickly finish the questions so I don't have to bother with it over the rest of the weekend with the festival and all tomorrow. That is a very smart idea. That's probably what I would do, actually. I would probably get everything done so that I could actually enjoy the festival and not have to think about the looming homework ahead. Apart from me, Hanako's the only one left, obviously waiting for Lily. It's weird that Light comes all the way to our classroom to pick her up. I expect that moving around is at least nominally harder for her than it is for Hanako. But it's none of my business, and I naturally don't ask about it from Hanako. Despite the relative proximity of our seats, neither tries to strike up a conversation about that or anything else either, so an impressive silence falls upon the classroom. Time passes in silence. It's probably just 15 minutes or so, but it feels longer. I turn pages of my notebook. Hanako turns pages of the novel she's reading. My pencil led splinters against the paper just when I was about to finish a paragraph. The sounds of my irritated sigh and subsequent fumbling around for a sharpener feel like they're breaking the mood in the classroom. Hanako keeps her eyes firmly away from my direction. Before long, Lily's tall figure appears in the doorway. Hanako! Whoa! She just like a leech. Her name is all it takes to make Hanako jump up from her desk and run to Lily. You talk quietly for a moment, but it isn't long before Lily leaves down the hall and Hanako idles back into the classroom, taking her seat once again. What happened? Not you let go on with Lily. I watch Hanako out of the corner of my eye out of sheer curiosity at the idea that the two would be separated. For a couple minutes, she does nothing but sit with her chin in her hands, staring at the desk dejectedly. The boredom evidently becomes too much for her, though, her slender frame reaching into her bag and pulling out a small book. Come to think of it, that isn't the one I saw her reading at the library. She must be quite a fast reader to get through them at this rate. But why would Lily leave her to her own devices? It seems to be quite out of the ordinary going by Hanako's reaction. Ah, that's right. I think Millie mentioned something about going into town today before Ren bumped into us. The thought of that walk makes me look outside. The bright sun and occasional people wandering around and enjoying the afternoon make me yearn to get out of the school, or at least do something other than sit here. Giving in to one of my worst vices, procrastination, I decide that history is a subject best studied on a Sunday. Or a Monday, or on any other day than this one. I give a grunt as I lever myself out of my seat, briefly debating with myself whether or not to hang out with Kenji. No, don't you dare hang out with Kenji. He doesn't strike me as the enjoying the nice weather outside with others kind of person, really. I guess I'll catch up with him later. Oh, gosh. That would have been a terrible idea. Changing tacks, I briefly entertain the idea of talking with Hanako, but by the time I look at her seat, it's vacant. She must have left for the library. There's got to be something to do that can kill the time. Okay, I see what's going on here. If you go to the library, we're going to go after Hanako, and we're going to talk to her and see what's going on with her. But if we go for a walk in the town, we might bump into Lily. Who do I find more fascinating? I don't even know. I'm more of a social person, more than anything else. I do like being around people, so we'll go for a walk in the town. That's what we'll do. Following Hanako to the library seems a bit intrusive. There was a reason she left the classroom after all. And that aside, I do want to catch up with Lily. At the very least, I'd like to thank her for looking out for me despite her other, obviously taxing duties. I guess I'll walk around town. With any luck, I should be able to find Lily. The exercise will do me some good as well. Walking through the school courtyard to the gate, I give a small nod to a couple of passing classmates, the gesture being returned in kind. From here, the shouts of the sports club members can be heard. From the sheer volume of the din, the track must be packed right now. I remember what Lily said yesterday about being dropped right into the middle of a busy time for school. While I'm trying to get my bearings and catch up on studying that I've missed, everyone else is doing normal school activities. The feeling of being a foreigner still hasn't dissipated, at least not yet. Well, I guess not everything's bad. This is a private school, and that much is easily noticed when walking around outside. Not only are their school grounds huge, but the buildings themselves are immaculate, and quite divorced from the dime a dozen concrete blocks of public schools. There's also the fact there's a much stronger feeling of community here, at the least a friendlier atmosphere. At my old school, it was generally accepted that people would keep to their little clique and be done with it. Eventually, I reached the gate and began to walk down the road and into town. Because it's easier going downhill than uphill. Probably gonna need some assistance going back. Well, that was fairly productive. Having seen a fair portion of the town, even including the houses perched on the hills around the outskirts, I decided to take a walk around the park before heading back. Living in the city all my life, the total lack of smartly dressed businessmen and fashionably dressed girls strike me as incredibly unusual. All that's to be seen are the odd, elderly persons shuffling along the sidewalk and assorted, busily chatting pairs of middle-aged women outside of small storefronts. Walking along the road to the park quickly distracts me from them, though, making me realize that I perhaps pushed myself further than I should have done to see as much as I could. As my breath begins to wheeze and my chest tightens more and more, I give up on the prospect of soldiering on. After a quick glance around the park as I enter, I take a seat on a wobbly old bench that I notice near a couple of vending machines. For minutes on end, I sit with my head bent over, forcing myself to take deep breaths. I feel more like an old man than a teenager who should be in the prime of his life. The stay in the hospital, the surgery, and the medications must be taking their toll on me. Dang it. Eventually, my breathing returns to normal, and the muscles in my chest loosen. Not without a fair measure of relief. I guess this means the end of my little sojourn, though, in any case. There's a cafe on the far corner, so I'll stop by to quench my thirst before heading back. A little bell above the door signals my arrival to an empty counter. For a few moments, I stand there waiting, my eyes every now and then drifting from one end of the counter to the other, searching for a service bell. Eventually, a door some ways behind the counter opens, the person emerging from it taking me by complete surprise. Is that Yuko? That is Yuko! Yeah! Hi, I had no idea you worked here. I really had no idea how to address her either, given that she is technically school staff as well as, apparently, a waitress. Yes, She quickly paces up to the counter before flinging her upper half downwards in an overacted bow. Welcome to the Shanghai. May I take your order? Straight down to business, I see. I don't know. Well, some coffee, please? Yes, certainly. I'll make it right away and bring it to you when it's done. Thanks. Yuko's formality takes me back. She seems to take her job really seriously, or very seriously. Obeying her instructions, I turn around and quickly glance around for a free table. Considering the cafe seems to be empty, this is a simple task to accomplish. As I walk towards a table adjacent to the window, I notice a flash of yellow around one of the table dividers. Sure enough, no more than a glance is needed to ascertain that it's a certain Sato at the table. That said, I don't recognize the suited figure across the table from her. That is certainly someone new. Blonde, fair-skinned, and only a little shorter. She? I think she must be a relative. Since the two are all but silent as the suited figure takes a swig from a cup of coffee, I decide to greet Lily. Some part of my coming here was in order to meet her, after all. Was it? Was it? Hi, Lily. Hisao. Yeah, nice to see you again. The suited girl looks up, noting my uniform with a relaxed smile. Know each other? I guess. Oh my goodness, look at those red eyes of hers. Wow, that's kind of creepy looking. Is she like the yin to her yang? She's like the dark to Lily's light? That's a good approximation of our relationship as I can think of. Care to take a seat? She says this to the air beside me, but the message is clear enough and I take a seat beside her. I suppose some introductions might be in order. Hisa, this is Akira Sato, my older sister. Akira, this is Hisao Nakai, another Yamaku student. Looks like my guess was correct. The newly introduced Akira gives a nod, which I return. So she has a sister, a very manly sister. What I don't return, however, is the almost analytical gaze with which she looks me over. As she does so, Yuko walks up to the table and carefully places the coffee on the table before bowing and taking her leave. Gently bringing my hand to the side of the cup, I realize that it's already at just the right temperature to drink. After taking a sip, the flavor turns out to be just as good as the temperature. A very rare thing. Yuko seems a lot better at this than being a librarian. I take a good long drink before relaxing into the seat. It takes mere seconds for Akira's examination to come to an end. Apparently becoming quickly bored with the activity, she turns to her sister. So, how's school recently? It seems Akira's entirely unconcerned with someone she doesn't know at all listening to everything they say. Not that I mind. Leaving them to their chatting, I sit back and continue drinking the pleasantly aromatic coffee. Sounds like it's pretty busy for you then. At least I'm not cooking your meals after school anymore. As they talk, I slowly realize that I'm entirely unable to gauge Lily's emotions through her eyes, as I would for any other person. It becomes slightly unsettling as I subconsciously focus on that fact. Whoa, so cold. Weren't you just cooking for yourself anyway? You only ever got leftovers. That's not the point. Are you managing to feed yourself at least? I can cook without blowing myself up, you know. Mostly. That's... it's fine, it's fine. I needed to learn sometime anyway. Lily? Everyone present is momentarily distracted by Yuko, who places a cup of tea on the table for Lily. Taking a moment to glance at her watch, Akira levers herself off her seat and gives me a quick nod. Well, I'd better be off. It was nice talking to you, Lily. Akira, do you have to? Lily looks genuinely mournful at her sister suddenly leaving. It does seem like she might have the wrong idea. Sorry, I need to get back to work. They'll be on my neck again if I don't make it back quickly. So informal. Akira's trim and tidy appearance would give anyone the wrong impression of her. Bye, Akira. Come on, don't look so down. I'll be around again soon. See yas. With that, she waltzes out of the Shanghai with her hand held high. She is definitely a character. Lily still looks pretty depressed, so I try to make some small talk in an effort to take her mind off of it. She seems nice. We used to live together, but now that I live at school, we hardly ever see each other. Despite Lily having been quite affable, I still don't really know much about her. In hindsight, it's surprising just how much she's extracted from me, really. You used to live together? Was it somewhere around here? It was pretty far south, so the trip into Yamako was fairly long. With their working hours getting longer and Yamako being so far away, there was little choice in the end but to move into the dormitories. Well, that explains the chatter about cooking. Evidently regaining her composure, she livens back up, at least in part. I take it you're better rested now. Sorry? You sounded less exhausted than you did when you first came in. To be able to pick out my breathing like that, she must have had pretty good ears. She probably picked me up as soon as I walked into the store. She's like, heavy breathing, must be Hisao, got it. Yeah, I ended up walking all over town, despite only planning on taking a short walk down here. Reminded of my thirst from the walk, I lean forward to take a sip. Without further ado, Lily starts on her cup of strong-smelling tea. I guess I'd better get back to Yamako. There's only so long I can stall studying for, and I want to get a good night's sleep before the festival. Standing from my seat, I take the coffee-stained cup from the table. You're leaving? Yeah, you going to head back as well? It's getting kind of late. For a moment she pauses before lifting her face over her teacup as if she was looking at me. Yuko, could we have one more coffee, please? Oh. Okay. She didn't outright say it, but she's like, you're staying. You're staying. Okay, I'll bring it right away. That's not subtle. She gives a short giggle at my frank assessment of her maneuver. It's surprisingly childish and carefree, given her otherwise collected appearance. In the end, though, I have little reason to refuse. To be honest, I can hardly say no, all things considered. Given a manufactured sigh, I take a seat opposite her. Okay, I can stay for one more coffee. Wanting company, then? I'd say that it's more than I was wondering. Wait, what? I'd say that it's more than I was wondering. Oh, okay. Let's talk. I see she's in questioning mode again. She does seem to be unusually interested in me, or at least curious. Do you have any siblings? Not exactly an unexpected tangent. No, only child. To be honest, the idea of having someone else that close makes me a bit envious. Interesting. I raise an eyebrow, which of course goes unseen. The short silence communicates the question well enough. It's just that others have said the same thing before. It's a difficult subject to try and think about objectively, given that I've always had someone like that. I can mostly understand what Lily means, given that it would be hard to place oneself outside of a situation they've been in all of their life. She and her sister must have a pretty close relationship. Taking pains to interrupt us as little as possible, Yuko dutifully comes over and places a cup on the table. Lily thanks her as I sit back, taking in this vexing girl in front of me. How's she vexing? She's nice to look at. She ain't vexing. Despite always seeming to be on her guard and in control of herself when talking to others, she has an almost childlike curiosity about other people. Well, yeah, if the only time you actually know about another person is through their voice and through the way they smell and how they talk and move and the sounds they make, and not being able to see them for who they are, just visibly, you'd be interested in everything about that person, just who they are, their past, their history, what they love. I can totally relate here with Lily here wanting to have this type of curiosity about people. It's just, I think it's due to her blindness that she's this interested in people, which is a shame because more people in the world should be this interested in other people, wanting to know this much about other people. So, I'm gonna get off my spiel. That said, those rare moments she seems to slightly lower her guard are the most insightful into how she thinks. Reaching forward for my drink, I realize something I probably should have noticed earlier. I think I'm starting to become kind of curious about her. Despite making a good pace, it's already nightfall by the time I reach the large iron gates in front of the school. While it's nice to have plenty of time to wander around by virtue of living right next to the school, I can't help but get the feeling that very few students actually take the opportunity. Compared to the number of students I see milling around on campus during free time, it's startlingly rare to see anyone else around town. Given the large number of accommodations and facilities that the school offers, many of them might simply not see any point in venturing outside, let alone people such as Hanako and Kenji. Makes me wonder if students like Shizu, Misha, and Lily are the exception for this school rather than the norm. As I wander back to my dorm room, I continue to compare my old school with Yamaku, and as I do so, I begin to be surprised that I managed to get even this used to everything that's happened to me. Was that it? Okay, that's the end of this episode. I'm not going to even split this video up. It's like not even 24... Yeah, it's 24 minutes, so I'll just leave it as one single episode. So this is the day of the festival, and we're going to save it right here. Save this right there. And we'll see you all in the next video where we're going to be enjoying the festival for the next day. So this should be exciting. All of Act 1, I'm assuming, has been leading up to this day. So it's probably going to be action-packed. So see you all in the next video, and hope the festival is everything that I hope it to be.